Thanks everybody for joining us today. We're in the process of starting to roll out Visual Builder Studio 2510 across our entire fleet. And we thought it would be good to touch base with you to give you a glimpse of various different features and improvements and changes that this release brings on the table. You can, of course, refer to all of that in our documentation, but we wanted to also walk you through all of those great improvements and enhancements that this release brings on the table. So with that, I have here with me a couple of folks from our product management team. Steve Waterhouse. He's going to go over the IDE feature or designer feature related to Redwood extensions and configurations. And then we have Aparna Gaonkar, who's going to go over the features and capabilities in VB Studio as it pertains to Visual Builder application development. So if you're using VB Studio to build VBCS applications, Aparna is going to go over some of the new capabilities and changes there. And then third, we have Sweta, who's going to go over the Lifecycle feature in Visual Builder Studio 2510. This is all the capabilities that are involved in, for example, publishing an extension and deploying it to various different other environments. And also, features around, source control and CI/CD. And lastly, I'll wrap up with a couple of features around administrations and improvements we have done there, as well as some final remarks. With that, I'm going to pass it on here to Steve to go over, extensibility and Redwood configuration features in the designer in 2510. Steve?
Thank you, Murtaza. First, let's kick off with a new group collapsible property. Now, prior to a field group collapsible property, so prior to release 2510, dynamic form field groups were not expandable, collapsible, dynamically by the user. But starting in 2510, you can configure a field group to be expanded by default, but also collapsible by the user. And conversely, you can configure it to be collapsed by default, but expandable by the user. Now, if you don't configure either of those options, the field group will be expanded and not collapsible, which is the backwards compatible behavior. So to recap that, so the collapsed option that you see in the screenshot there results in the field group rendering in a collapsed mode, but it can be expanded by the user. And the expanded option results in the field group rendering in expanded mode, but it can be collapsed by the user. Now, the third option there, not collapsible, is essentially the backwards compatible default behavior now, where the field group will be expanded in the UI, but the user can't collapse it. So the takeaway is that for existing field groups in existing applications, the behavior for those field groups will be the same in that it will not be collapsible. However, you can configure that field group with any of the other two options to adjust it to be its behavior to be dynamic, either collapsed by default but expandable, or expanded by default and collapsible as well. Okay, next slide, please. Next feature is that when you add a new rule to a dynamic container, all the available container sections are now added by default. Now, the reason for this is it's common for dynamic containers to have a lot of sections, and it's a simpler, quicker process to remove sections from a container than to add sections to the container. It's just faster. So this new behavior streamlines the container configuration process when you add a new rule. And important to note, the feature is available in advanced and express mode. The next slide will show a very quick demo demoing that all the available sections are added to the container when a new rule is created. So if we can go to the next slide, that would be great. And the video should automatically play. And there's all the 16 sections there that were in the original one. So it's that simple. Automatically, when a new rule is created, all the existing sections that are available for that container are copied into the new rule. And again, it's a quicker process by clicks, if you will, to remove sections and reorder sections than it is to go find sections and add them and configure them later. So thank you for that. Next slide, please. This is a cool feature. Reordering fields, whether it's in a table or a dynamic form, is a very common task to perform. And now in Express mode, for some extension pages, you'll see a new Reorder Fields button you can see on the right on the screenshot here. Next slide, please. When that button is clicked, you'll see a panel for reordering fields. Now, using this feature, you can conveniently change the display order of fields in forms and tables. And again, this is within what you see on the screen there in the Reorder Fields panel is a list of page regions. So within a region on the page, this is where you can do that work. So for example, within one of those regions, as shown on the slide, you could reorder fields, reorder field groups, and reorder fields in field groups, and move fields out of a field group and move them back into the field group. So there's a lot of cool capability baked into this. And in the next slide, if you click the next slide, please, thank you. Yeah, notice that only some regions are configured to allow by the application development team to allow reordering. When a region doesn't support reordering of fields, this is the kind of message you'll see. So it's quite clear when you're in a region that does not support reordering. The next slide runs a short demo of this feature in action. And as we wrap it up, there's moving a field back into a field group. Great, thank you for that. Next slide, please. There are also improvements to business rules here in 2510. So particularly the process to delete advanced expressions that are used in the business rules condition builder, as we see here, and in setting field default values that you see in the bottom right of the screen. We've now surfaced delete actions very conveniently in this top level UI so that you can, without going into source mode or any other more complicated process, you can now in a single click delete those advanced expressions. And this is an improvement from prior releases where it was a more involved task to kind of accomplish these very simple, straightforward actions. So we've made that simpler for you to accomplish and save you time every day. Next slide, please. Now, when a CX extension is created or modified, there's a new option to associate one of the CX pillar factory extensions. And there are 3 CX pillar factory extensions, as you can see in the bottom of the screenshot. They are CX sales, CX service, and CX marketing. When you associate one of these new options to an extension, and by the way, this is optional, you are creating a CX extension that is uniquely defined by this subcategory. And in fact, what you are doing is creating, if you have multiple extensions, each with the same subcategory value, you have now created a group of similar expressions. And this is important in the CX world because of the way that CX applications are architected. And let me give you an example of this. For example, let's say that there are 10 extensions in the CX marketing subcategory. So essentially they have an extension subcategory value of CX marketing. Now, when you're working in another extension, or perhaps building a new one, and you add any one of these CX marketing extensions as a dependency, all of the extensions in that CX marketing category, in other words, every extension that you have flagged as CX marketing, will also be included as a dependency because they're all related, right? So there's an intention here that you create subcategory groups of extensions when it's important that the resources in those extensions be available when any one of those extensions is involved in an extensibility task. So similarly, in express mode, when you're editing a CX page, if that page is associated with an extension, again, in that CX marketing subcategory, all the pages in all the extensions of the CX marketing category, they'll now be available for configuring in the express mode pages list. So the takeaway is, when you assign a subcategory to a CX extension, you are creating a group of related extensions, and that group of extensions will be rippled throughout the key Visual Builder Studio UIs so that they can be treated as a logical group, which is essentially what you want to do when you need to share pages and share extension resources across multiple applications. Next slide, please. Global functions. So this is pretty cool. If your visual application routinely uses similar JavaScript functions to transform or manipulate data, you can now package those functions as global functions, essentially making them reusable in pages and fragments or any other container in your web app. These will be available in a single web app in a visual application. So it's important to note they are web app scoped functions. You can access these global functions wherever functions can be selected, including action chains, business rules, validation messages, or validation rules, pardon me, and field default value expressions, for example. So in this release, important to note that the process for implementing global functions is largely manual, but very thoroughly documented so that you can be successful doing this. And this implementation will be streamlined over future releases. Next slide, please. And last in my section, there's now a one-click process to accomplish two things that used to be done in 2 steps, or one thing that used to be done in 2 steps. Essentially, there's a one-click process to both share an application extension and copy the deployment URL that you can share that becomes the shareable link, instead of using 2 separate actions in the share application extension dialog. So a very straightforward, streamlined process here that a lot of folks will be able to take advantage of. Well, that completes my section. So over to Aparna, unless there's any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Hi, thank you, Steve. So the first item in visual applications is our changed upgrade policy. So published apps in Visual Builder can theoretically run indefinitely with the runtime libraries they were published on. However, if you do not upgrade your apps regularly, your app could break due to incompatibility with newer browser versions, or you may not be able to take advantage of the features or performance optimizations in the latest runtime libraries. So in context of this, we already have an upgrade policy. And as part of this policy, we support 3 VB runtime versions previous to the latest one. So if the latest release of Visual Builder is 25.10, we also support VB runtime versions 25.7, 25.4, and 25.1. From now onwards, from 25.10 onwards, we have extended the support to 4 previous releases. That is, 24.10 would also be supported. So this means that the runtime libraries your app is using should be supported for an year. Beyond this, obviously, you will be prompted to upgrade if you open the app in the designer. Next slide, please. And the next item is the default method for publishing visual apps. App workspaces has changed. And now when you, from 2510, when you create a new workspace and make changes and click on the publish button, the changes that are made in the workspace are immediately deployed to the instance attached to the environment. This means that you will be able to see the changes in your workspace much more quickly without making use of the CI/CD pipeline, that is, without having to wait for a new build job to be spawned or a build executor to start and so on. However, if you do wish to use the CI/CD pipeline, you could always go to the settings of the workspace and check the enable CI/CD pipeline checkbox. And also note that if you create a project based on a visual builder or a visual application template, that still uses the CI/CD pipeline by default. Obviously, as per your use case, you could always go to the workspace settings and change it according to your need. Next slide, please. So some UI changes are present now in these services area. The overview tab that was present in the backends, the service connections, and the endpoints has been removed. And the information that was contained in this tab has been moved to a new settings tab at the end of the tab bar. You will not be seeing the overview tab from 2510. Next slide, please. And the same kind of changes have also been made to the business object UI. The overview tab here has moved to settings, and the business object relationships section has been moved to its own tab. Next slide, please. And this is a feature that we have developed in response to requests from customers who wanted to customize the login page from IDCS or IAM, the page that opens and prompts you to log in when you access a secure visual app. So how this works is that you designate one web app in the visual app as a custom login app. And this is done from visual app, from the settings, security, and you will find a new section there called custom login page. So once you designate a visual app as your custom login app, you can see a button which says create sample login page. And once you click this, a sample login page will be created, and that's all. So now onwards, if you access a staged or published web app in this particular visual app, instead of diverting you to the IDCS or the IAM login page, you will be diverted to the new sample login page. And this is a fully functional page that is, if you want to use the page just as is, it is fully functional. It is Redwood themed. It has details like username and password, and it is there available for you out of the box. But if you want to customize it further, you can go to that page and you can customize according to your styling, or you want to change the fields, or you want to have different kinds of buttons, or you do not want to use a button. All that is possible. Some caveats here. This feature is intended to customize the look and feel of the login page, not for replacing SSO or to federate with another identity domain. That's not the intention of this feature. The web app that you designate as the custom login app should be anonymous. That is, it should have required authenticated access unchecked in its settings. And basically, the sample login page that is created is a Redwood themed page with a custom login component, which is available in the component exchange. We'll see that in the next slide. And you can utilize the page as is, or you can customize it according to your need. You also get the forgotten password functionality along with the custom login screen. So this highlighted section is what the sample login page looks like. And actually, this is the page, and the highlighted section is the custom login component. As you can see, this provides the typical fields for a login form and a login button. You can see a spurious error message as well, but that can be ignored. So if this doesn't satisfy your requirement, you want more customization for the login screen, highlighted in green is the custom login template. This will help you to customize the login screen. In fact, customize the full login form according to your needs. So can you click, please? No, yeah, thanks. So the login form is available, is automatically installed for you when you create the sample login page. And this is just a component which is available in the component exchange. If you navigate to components and login form, you can see all the documentation for the login form, as well as methods and examples how to customize the login form further to meet your needs. And so is the case with the forgotten password form as well. So that completes the new features for 2510 for visual apps. And now over to Sweta for lifecycle of extensions.
Thank you, Aparna. Yeah, hi everyone. Let's start with the brand new option to import source code of deployed extension. A lot of times we hear users getting into a situation where they either deleted a project by mistake, or a consultant or colleague who was working on an extension left without sharing the source code. To help overcome these kind of situations, we are coming up with a feature to import a deployed extensions source code into a new project from any environment where it's deployed. To do this, you'll need to create a new project. As usual, add environment and then use the new import from Oracle Cloud application on the Workspace page. As you can see in the screenshot, you will need to select the extension and the corresponding version that you want to import. And once you click on import, as you can see the screenshot at the bottom, a new workspace is created. It is recommended that you import the source code of the active version, so you have the latest code that was deployed, though as you can see, you can go ahead and import any version that's available. Next slide, please. Okay, before we dive into this feature, let's refresh what target branch is. So target branch in settings allows users to select the remote branch to merge the changes to and deploy from during publish, like you may be knowing. Also, when others publish to this target branch in remote repository, users are notified so they can refresh their workspaces and stay up to date. Once you set this target branch, you know that it's pre-selected in publish dialog and can be changed from the advanced mode. Let's say you decided to set this target branch to one of your feature branches and it doesn't have an existing CI/CD pipeline. In that case, what VB Studio does is it directly deploys your changes to the default environment, which is associated to your workspace. Now, in case you want to use the pipeline for deployment for a specific reason, you can go and use this new feature, click the button, which is the Create CI/CD pipeline, and it will automatically create the package and deploy jobs and the corresponding pipeline. As you can guess, the deployment target environment will be set to the environment associated to the workspace. Next slide, please. Okay, so this one is basically about the default for publishing page customizations from the new workspaces. You may already be aware that starting VBS version 2501.1, all the new workspaces created using Edit in VB Studio link are configured to deploy changes directly to the default environment associated to the workspace. Starting 2510, this behavior would also apply to the workspaces created through the new application extensions menu option on the workspaces page. However, to publish using CI/CD, you can always select the settings for the corresponding branch. Like we heard earlier from Aparna, the existing extensions will continue to use the CI/CD settings that was previously set until you go ahead and decide to change it. Next slide, please. Okay, so this feature will be extremely useful in scenarios like P2T, where after refresh, the originally deployed extensions are overwritten, or let's say someone deletes a deployed extension by mistake. Even in the cases where MR is approved and merged and you want to deploy the changes to validate. We are now coming up with this deploy feature, which will show up in the overflow menu, and it'll allow you to deploy extensions or visual applications directly from a branch in the remote repository. Let's talk about what the differences are between publish and deploy, so you know when to use which feature. Publish is a two-step process, which is to merge new changes in your workspace to a remote branch, and then deploy those changes to your target instance. To note, deployment happens either directly via the pipeline, depending on the enabled CI/CD settings. So yeah, it's either directly or via the pipeline, and you have control over it. With deploy, your already existing changes in the remote branch are deployed to the target instance. And the deployment always happens directly without using the CI/CD pipeline, even if one exists or is enabled for the branch. So that's all from the application lifecycle side. I would just hand it over to Murtaza.
Thank you, Shweta. So just two quick things I wanted to bring up here under administration. The first one is, for those of you who are using VB Express mode to configure, for example, HCM pages, when you upgrade your development environment, when your development Fusion environment is updated to the next release, oftentimes when you come back to VB Designer, you'll see this pop-up notification saying you need to update your, we need to do some housekeeping, or we need to update, the framework to reflect the changes in the runtime as a result of the new Fusion release. And in the past, you'd had to commit your changes. In other words, switch over to advanced mode, commit your changes, then go under the settings menu and, initiate the migration process there. And, that was very confusing for many of you. So we've dramatically simplified this experience. The upgrade is needed, but it's a one-click experience. In other words, you click migrate, it goes forward and does the upgrade, and then assuming it all goes well, it just that's it. There's no more switching to advanced mode, committing changes, and clicking the migrator button over there, et cetera, et cetera. So a very simple, one-click experience to upgrade your design time dependencies against a new version of the runtime. Next, along the same tokens, like when you begin to edit a Fusion Redwood page in VB Studio off of a Fusion app instance, a development environment, that is. And if you're not part of a project, you would get this message saying, you're not part of an existing project. Please click here. You can request a membership, and that request goes to the project owner. And the project owner, once he or she approves it, you get access to the project. So that same experience is now also available to you if you come into VB Studio and you click on this filtering for all projects. For projects that you don't have access to, you can go in and request membership over here. So this is a new change in 2510. And when you do that, the project owner on this right side of the screen here, the project owner not only gets an email notification, but they can come over here and go through all of the various requests that people have made against their projects, and they can take an action. They can approve, reject. When they approve, they can decide, what role to assign to that user, etc. So that's another improvement that we made, essentially extending the workflow that has been present in the edit in Visual Builder Studio user journey into this project homepage. And that's really it. I mean, those are the key notable features, improvements that this release brings on the table. There's a lot more. And all of that is going to be included in our What's New documentation that you'll find alongside the rest of our documentation on this link up here. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to bring those up in various different, Customer Connect forums. We've got at least 3 forums where, topics related to Visual Builder Studio are being discussed. The first one here is this Redwood Extension Development Forum. By the way, all the links are up here in the slide. The second one is for those of you who are configuring and personalizing HCM Redwood pages. There's a HCM VB Studio forum as well, so you can bring up your questions there. And lastly, if you're building, VBCS applications, there is a dedicated forum for that as well. So, yep, feel free to bring up any questions you have. And if you have any feedback or suggestions or ideas, there are 2 ways by which you can communicate that back to us. And we're actively monitoring both of these channels. The first one is in the product itself, there's a little smiley icon at the top header on the right side. You can leave us a feedback and it comes directly to us, our product management team. So feel free to use this if you like something, if you don't like something, if you have a suggestion, feel free to leave us a feedback there. And the second is most recently we launched a new ideas section in the Customer Connect forum around Visual Builder Studio. And we've already received quite a few good ideas from all of you. And so, we encourage you to continue to submit your ideas as well as, vote on some of the existing ones that are there. And, like I said, we actively monitor this channel as well. So with that, that brings us to the end of our session. Thank you very much for being with us today. And we look forward to, engaging with you in future sessions. Thank you.